Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. Joe San Diego here, along with Joshua Burke, and we want to give a big Grid Network debut welcome to Esha Azeem. Esha, welcome to the Grid Network.
Thank you so much, Joe. Hi, everyone. I'm Esha, and I'm so excited to be part of the Grid Network. I really enjoy Formula One, and I'm just really looking forward to being a part of the team.
And we're very excited to have you on the team as well too. And of course, we encourage everyone in the chat room comment with your questions, comments. Demas, as always, thank you so much for tuning in to us each and every week. And I want to give a big shout out to our Patreon subscribers, calling the show Mark, Rob, and David for investing in the Grid Network each and every week. Thank you so much for helping us pay the bills, stay on the air. If we could hit $500 a month, we could be at the track much more frequently. You could also do Buy Me a Coffee, where you could buy a cup of coffee for a particular member of the Grid Network, including for some of our new members as well. We got to start with Formula One. What a spectacular qualifying session. We looked like we had some rain. Everyone went out on slicks. We didn't have DRS until the third Q3 session. British Grand Prix is, of course, one of the most anticipated races of the entire calendar, one of the largest crowds. And they left, I think, pretty overall excited, but a little bit on the disappointment side because it looked like for that split second, Lando Norris was going to have the pole, but then Max Verstappen came around the corner and took it away. So overall, Max Verstappen, he's on the pole. He's trying to get 6 in a row. That will tie Michael Schumacher from the early 2000s with 6 wins in a row. Lando Norris is starting second, and Oscar Piastri is, of course, starting third. And overall, a good day for British drivers all around, all of them in Q3. Starting with you, Esha. Is Max Verstappen looking at 6 in a row, or do you see another driver that could end the Red Bull winning streak this weekend?
You know, as much as I'd love to see another driver take the win, I do believe that Max Verstappen is going to win tomorrow and tie Michael Schumacher for 6 consecutive wins. And it's just because Red Bull's been having a fantastic season so far. You know, they've got a great driver and a great car with some great strategies. So I think it's safe to say that we'll see Max win the British Grand Prix tomorrow.
Absolutely. I was just Googling as well about it all with Max Verstappen. He's had 5 poles in a row now. He's going for 6 wins tomorrow. And he's looking to be absolutely fantastic because I've never heard the crowd cheering so much for Lando Norris and then booing immediately for Max Verstappen. That's not the correct thing to do as well. And I thought the British crowd, some of them, now I think the British crowd, of course, Silverstone, used to be some of the best in the world. However, there's a lot of them now who are Lewis Hamilton fans, of course, and the Team LH. So there's a few of them that boo, and I don't like that. It's not correct. I was enthralled by that qualifying session. I loved every second of it. Max taking pole is brilliant. 6 in a row is an option for him tomorrow in the race, but I just don't think he's got it. Today, he's looked out of sorts. Practice 3, he never got to run on the soft tyres in the damp conditions, so he was out of kilter going into qualifying when we had to go to the softs. He did, in Q1, 9 laps on the soft tyres, and he didn't change over. So same set of tyres, and he was losing time, and it put him at fault in Q1. Q2, he was okay. Q3, he was sort of down and out in the first ones, then only just got it in the last sector. First sector, he was slow. Second sector, he was worst. Actually, he was so far down. And then he managed to get up as well and take the final sector. A bit like what we saw in 2016, or was it 2014 here when we had a wet quali, and the track was improving so much in that last sector. That's how Max got pole, because Norris was up 126.961. Then we saw Verstappen 126.720. That was down completely to the improvement in the last sector. I'm confident Max is going to go for 6, but if Norris can get ahead of him into turn 1 tomorrow, and then Piastri starts playing games as well, could be a very difficult race. And also, just like to point out, I hate it, and I said it last week, there are a lot of rumors going around that there could be some protests, a lot of protesters from Just Stop Oil. Please don't go on the racetrack. Please don't. You could and probably will get killed. Please don't. But if they play a factor and a red flag comes out, it changes the start again. Like we saw last year when Verstappen started second. On the first start, he jumped Sainz. And on the second start, Sainz learned what was going on and managed to keep ahead and got back ahead of Max down towards turn 1. So a second start at Silverstone is never a good idea because Max always comes off worse, and the Pearson in P2 always comes off better.
And definitely, I think we all could echo. We all support, freedom of speech, freedom of protest, freedom to assemble, but not at the racetrack. That's way too dangerous. A couple of comments in the chat room from Dimas. Welcome to Esha to the Grid Network, as well as from Ben. Definitely very excited to have you here. SHE, Piastri shuts Alpine's mouth. Definitely, I think Oscar Piastri silenced a lot of doubters today, and now Alpine seems to be in trouble from McLaren. McLaren, wow, we didn't see this kind of pace in the first couple of sessions, and now it's very exciting to see them. Adam also welcoming Esha as well to the Grid Network and the Grand Prix. I think it's going to be very exciting. And then, can Max Verstappen win the 2023 Grand Prix and his first British Grand Prix win for Red Bull since Mark Webber? It's crazy to think it's been that long since Red Bull has won the British Grand Prix. Now, of course, Max Verstappen won the 70th anniversary race here at the same circuit. But it just seems like when it comes to this race, especially where we're seeing from Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, they step it up. This is their home race. They want to go out there. They want to get the win. Red Bull, though, they have been unstoppable so far this year. In the constructors, just a whopping 199-point lead over second place. Last year, Carlos Sainz, he took this win. And as you mentioned, Josh, that second start was very key for getting that win. Ferrari, they look better this weekend. They're up towards the front. They're looking stronger than Mercedes right now. But when it comes to Ferrari on the podium, starting with you, Josh, do you see Ferrari winning podium, top 5 or lower?
Before qualifying, I thought Ferrari had a decent shot of being second and third. Now McLaren have turned up. I thought Williams would probably get a third place on the grid. They sort of slipped back with the improvement of the track. I've got a feeling if Ferrari are going to play the strategy game, which is always dangerous with them. They never get it right. They tripped over themselves again in qualifying 3 because Q2, Sainz said, I want to go ahead of Charles. And the team said, negative, we keep Charles ahead. And Carlos almost lost down in Q2 to get into Q3. So that was a bit of a foolish move for them. I think if realistically, there's one of 3 options. Option 1, Max runs away with it from the start, and then McLaren battle Ferrari quite quickly. Option 2, Max doesn't get a great launch, Lando leads, and then it's a pit stop battle throughout the race. Option 3 is Ferrari overtake the team McLarens immediately. Max has a fault somewhere in the pit lane, and Ferrari take a 1-2, which is extremely unlikely. So I think third is a realistic opportunity for Ferrari tomorrow. And I think it will be Carlos Sainz, not Charles Leclerc. Of course, Leclerc lost a lot of time in practice too with the electronics issue. So Sainz has got the better data. Sainz has been the faster driver, and up until qualifying, I would have said Sainz would have been top 3. So I'll go with Carlos to take a podium tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, I agree with Josh. I really do think that Ferrari has a good shot at getting at least one of their cars on the podium, most likely with Carlos Sainz. You know, they had a pretty good run at the Austrian Grand Prix last weekend where Charles Leclerc finished P2 and Carlos was P4, but then he was brought down because of all the penalties and track limits. But as you mentioned, Carlos Sainz did win the British Grand Prix last year, so I think that's definitely going to be an extra bit of motivation for him to try again for at least the podium. And originally, I did think Ferrari was going to do pretty well, but with the performance that McLaren's shown today, I think that it will be a tough race, but I do believe that at least one of the Ferraris will be on the podium tomorrow.
Ferrari on the podium will be huge momentum for that team to try to just rebound after what has been a really dreadful first half of the start of the season. A couple of comments in the chat room to go through. Ferrari teammates always out of sync. SH team teamwork, their strategy seems to be out of sync. And then also, Sainz is the highest driver in the stand that hasn't gotten a single podium so far this season. Very interesting. The consistency has been there, but no podiums yet. I think this could be the race we can he breaks that. He's won here before. He knows how to get it done. If the race goes his way, should be one of those deals where it can, I think, will go his way. But it's going to be really hard, as you mentioned, McLaren. If they could put together a good race, a good, solid performance, no mistakes, I wouldn't be surprised if we see one of them in the podium. A double podium, I think Zach Brown's going to be besides himself excited to have that, considering where they were at the beginning of the season, to do it right here at the British Grand Prix and all the fans. A lot of fans in orange for McLaren compared to the last prior race weekend in Austria. They were all Max Verstappen fans. The big surprise, though, I think, this is something a lot of people are going to be watching. Out of all the teams, one of the most popular teams in Great Britain, Williams F1, Alex Albon, Logan Sargent, both been fast all weekend. Albon up in the top 3 in each practice session. And for the third week in a row, he gets into Q3. They have pace. I did not anticipate this. Esha, is Williams finally turning the page as a team? Or is this mainly Alex Albon showing his full potential?
From what we've seen this weekend so far, Williams as a whole has been doing much better than they were at the start of the season. And I agree with you, they definitely have pace. I just feel like specifically with the British Grand Prix, I think it's Albon mainly that's doing really well. And I think we can expect to see something really good from him tomorrow. But overall, Williams has been doing pretty well, but I think it's just Albon this time.
Yeah, that upgrade package that they've got on the car, it's not the silver bullet or anything like that. It's not the big fix as well, but it seems to have given Albon and Sargent a little bit of an extra motivation almost. It's a nice little leg up from what they were driving, and it is the step up. Dorito Capital came into it as well. They've taken over the team. They're putting a lot of funding into it. They've got a new sponsorship deal as well. They're getting a lot more money in now. They've got the development tools. They're being helped out with the cost cap regulations as well. So this is looking really good for Williams to get back up to the front. They're having their best weekend. They're celebrating their 800th Grand Prix here. It was supposed to be their 800th, but of course Emilia Romagna got cancelled, so it's their 799th Grand Prix, which I always find ridiculous that they're doing it here. And they should just wait for Hungary, which is, I think, more of a meaningful track for Williams, considering they won the 1992 Drivers' Championship and Constructors' Championship there in Hungary as well. So that was a nice little one for them. But I think we're going to see a very interesting change tomorrow. Albon's definitely going to be scoring for top points. If Albon's not top 5 tomorrow, I would be disappointed with that result. If Sargent's definitely not in the points tomorrow, he starts 14th on the grid, I would be disappointed because he's got nothing at the moment. He's 19th on the board. He's got ahead of De Vries. But Sargent, after this stage of the season, he needs points. Otherwise, he may be a paid driver, but Williams are moving into a position where they don't need paid drivers anymore. So he's got to start delivering. Otherwise, there's plenty of other people out there with cash that can deliver. And of course, Williams in the next year or two won't need a paid driver anymore. They will be back up there with a full-fledged car, and they'll be having like Bottas and Massa again in the team. And Albon's definitely one of those drivers. I don't think Sargent is at the moment. Maybe we could see it change, but I would rather have Jack Crawford in the car personally.
Jack Crawford, one of the popular drivers, and Williams seems to really be turning it onto something right now. Question in the chat room, but first a couple of other comments. From Adam Williams, has plenty of good history at Silverstone with Nigel Mansell, Damon Hill winning in the past. Dimas asked, do you know about the F1 2024 calendar? Yes, I encourage you. Check out Grid tonight this past Wednesday. Josh had a great thoughts and opinions on that. And then a question for you, Josh, and then Esha as well. Does McLaren have the race consistency to carry the momentum from qualifying?
I don't know. Let me have a quick look. Norris used up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of his soft tyres. So Lando's got no soft tyres left for tomorrow. He did a 6, a 1, a 3. So that's a 6, a 4, another 4, 5. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5 tyres he's used in that qualifying session. So he's out of softs from the allocation. And it's exactly the same for Piastri. So neither of them have got soft tyres left. And if it is a wet weather race tomorrow, that's fine, because they've got 4 intermediates left to use, as well as 2 old, and they've got 3 sets of wet tyres they haven't touched. But if it is a race where it sort of fluctuates on the track temperature, you don't want to be running the hard tire at this track in hot weather. It won't work as well as you think it would. Obviously, in cool temperatures, you use the softs. In hot weather, you use the hards. But at this circuit, it's like the opposite. You've got to go like it's almost like you flip it around a bit, like the upside down in Stranger Things, opposite land. So mediums are going to be the ones to run. They've got two sets left each, I think, of the medium runners, but no softs is going to be crucial for a late safety car, which we saw last year. And remember last year we saw Leclerc and Perez on the hards struggle against Hamilton, who was on the softs, and Alonso, who's on the mediums. Hards don't work here in late races, so I would be a little bit worried they haven't got any soft tires left.
Yeah, I agree with Josh on this one. I think it's really difficult to say for sure whether McLaren's gonna be like on the podium or do really well tomorrow. But just based off the momentum from today's qualifiers, I think it will definitely push them to do really well. And a lot of factors have to go into it, like the weather, if it's going to be raining tomorrow, and then also Lando's used up his soft tires. So you can't really say for sure, but just based off the momentum from today's qualifiers, I think they're going to go pretty far and do well.
It'll be really interesting to see what happens with them. A couple more comments in the chat room. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in as always. We also have Vesti, the Mercedes Academy driver, currently looking really good in F2. Could he be in contention for the Williams seat? Does that get dropped? And then Ben responded at the MSC. Williams seems a bit too much. I believe he's talking about Mick Schumacher, I believe. From what I understand, Sargent's on a 2-year plan. While it's great Crawford got an F2 win, I don't think he's F1 ready. We also have definitely hoping to see Mick come back. And then another one, that being said, Mick has done great sim work for Mercedes this weekend, and I hope to see him get a seat in 2024. Very much a lot of people really wondering what's going to happen. And one final question from the chat room, Joshua, we're going to start with you. Which of the top 5 drivers will you believe will be best if it rains in Silverstone? Now, of course, we did have some rain. I don't know how the weather's looking, but there's a starting lineup, the top 5 for Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, Leclerc, and Sainz. Joshua, if we were to get rain, who do you think would be some of the top 5?
First of all, I'm terribly sorry for being on my phone. I was getting information about the Ocon penalty because it looks like he's the Ocon and Zhou penalty. It looks like Zhou's going to get docked to the back of the grid. They've gone in now, but they've heard from Ocon, and Ocon's going out, sort of going good back of the grid. So we'll see what that is. If it rains tomorrow, top 5 coming in. You've got to throw it that Hamilton's going to be up there for wet weather at Silverstone. He always has been. Verstappen, I think, would be in the mix. I'd throw Alonso in there. I'd throw Norris in there, and I'd throw, looking at the top 10, I'll throw Esteban in there. Esteban Ocon, I'll put him for 13th. He's good in mixed conditions. Remember Hungary, of course, and this is a similar style of track, nice and flowing. So yeah, I'd put Esteban up there to be inside top 5. It could be a very chaotic race tomorrow with the weather. And I'm sort of don't know if on a dry race or a wet race or a race that starts dry, goes wet. It's always the way. It's like Christmas for me, especially as well. It's always the best race of the year, in my opinion. I know that's patriotic of me being British and everything, but for me, it is one of the best races of the year because you never know what's going to happen at the British Grand Prix. It just throws up different racing every single year, and we've been on a roll of some classics now. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for it.
I agree with that, but I think I'm going to go with Max Verstappen for having to do best tomorrow, even if it rains. So far, the qualifiers and the practice sessions have all brought a bunch of surprises to us. So, you can't say anything for certain with the weather because today we had a little bit of rain. It was on and off. And every driver is, they're bringing different surprises. So I think I'm going to go with Max Verstappen for tomorrow.
Max Verstappen. When it comes to the rain, Sao Paulo that year with the rain and his masterful drive always stands out. One contenders, the big thing, of course, being careful of all the chaos that can happen. Hungary, where Valtteri Bottas misjudged the braking point, caused a lot of calamity. It's going to be really interesting. Tomorrow, British Grand Prix, of course, Joshua will be having that on the watch along as well.
there's a few more lap times that the FIA are looking into that might have had track limits down at Stowe, and there's one at Cops that they're looking at as well. Don't know for which driver yet, but there's a few of them being looked at. But I don't think it's going to be too big of a lap time deletion. I think a couple of them have requested clarification on whether or not they crossed the line or not, like when we had lap times reinstalled in the Formula 3 qualifying earlier on. So I don't think we're going to see too big of a change to the grid, but I do implore you all as well, keep across the Grid Network socials, but also keep across FIA.com because they'll tell you any changes to the grid, because we get all the stewards' decisions there and all of the pre-race starting grids and the final starting grids. But my phone's been buzzing like mad for the past 5 minutes because we never usually do these sessions so close to the end of qualifying. Usually qualifying's at like 2 for me, and it's 2 hours later, but it's only been over for an hour, so we're just getting everything coming through once again. But it's quite good. Also, Kevin Magnussen was 20th. He's going to have a new internal combustion engine, so it looks to be a pit lane start for him, sadly.
Pit lane start, that'll be something else. Joshua, will track limit penalties be a role? My answer is going to be, I hope not. After what we saw,
I hope not, but probably. Mainly Cops and Stowe, those two turns. That's going to be the big thing as well, as the McLaren boys are with Karun at the Skypad right now, but Ted's doing his notebook, so he's interrupting them as he always does. But I think track limits could be a factor tomorrow, but not in the way we saw in Austria, which is good, because this track, there's only 2 places really you can go off and gain time, which is Cops and Stowe. So it should be fine.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. And one of the things that's always fun for a lot of folks, because Joshua, we know you're ready to head out, pick a winner. Nobody got Will Brown for the Supercars, so here are the standings. And of course, for everyone outside the top 10, your first correct guess, you get 1 bonus point. You're outside the top 20, all your correct guesses get you a bonus point. So it's still very early. Joshua, when it comes to pick a winner, and we encourage everyone to chat with, share who you think is going to win the Formula 1 race. Who is your pick a winner for F1? And since you got to go, Josh, NASCAR and Supercars as well.
Well, SVG, I think, for Supercars. He didn't win race 1, but he might get back to win race 2 and race 3, so I'll go with him there. NASCAR, let's go for Kyle Larson. I would have gone SVG, but he's not there this weekend. Got that one right last week, though. And he's on 19 points now, so not doing too bad. For F1 tomorrow, this is harder than normal because I don't think it's going to be Max. I've got to need the points. Max Verstappen. I don't think that, but I'll say it for points. But it'll be Max Verstappen, I think. If it's not Max, something crazy happens. Leclerc. I think Ferrari will prioritize him over Sainz.
Verstappen or Leclerc, those are 2, I think, easy picks. Rod Brown, qualifying not confirmed then as of yet. That is correct. Everyone's still waiting. Traditionally, F1, that'll be a little bit earlier in the day, but because of the British Grand Prix time schedule, we just came on the air less than an hour after they wrapped up qualifying. So as Joshua mentioned, FIA.com, as well as the Grid Network on social media and Joshua's first channel as well. One of the other comments, SAG went contacted 13th back to finish 4th. As for the supercar sections, we'll definitely be getting to the supercar section a little bit. But Joshua, thank you so much for your time. Esha, we'll see you a little bit later for Pick a Winner. Now it's time for the NASCAR Cup Series, and they are at Atlanta Motor Speedway for the Quaker State 400. The Quaker State 400 at Atlanta Motor Speedway, very tricky track because this track has been racing like a super speedway racetrack. You have the 1.5 mile track, but the big thing, the 28 degrees of banking makes it where you see pack racing. Now, this is our 4th time seeing the Cup Series come into this race where they're going to be racing. So, one question, we'd love to hear everyone's comments in the chat room. Do you think we're going to still see the same kind of pack racing we've had before? Because the big thing, as the track ages, the grip level is going to go down. Less grip, handling becomes more of an issue. Could we see a little bit more spread out field in Atlanta Motor Speedway? This year, since the race is going to be under the lights, I don't think we're going to see that. The cooler temperature from the nighttime sky, I think, is going to prevent that from being an issue. So I think we're going to see a lot of the same old pack racing we've been getting accustomed to the last couple of times at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Now, qualifying today is going to be still very important for the NASCAR Cup Series because at this qualifying session is going to be a little bit different. It's similar to what you see at Daytona and Talladega, but the track position I think is even more important because with the track position here, the track is narrower. So if you can't get through the front, you're going to be stuck in the pack, and that's where the craziness occurs. We saw in the Xfinity Series race last year how it just seemed to be caution after caution. The Cup Series race, we saw a lot less cautions. This year, you add the lights, the cooler temperatures, the higher amount of grip, we could see some more intense pack racing. So qualifying is going to be very important. And one thing that is very underrated, but I feel will be very important this weekend, pit road selection. You qualify towards the front, you're first to select a pit stop stall for pit road. If you get stuck with a crummy one where you're sandwiched between two front runners, you're going to have a hard time getting in and out of pit road. So it's going to be very important to get a fast qualifying lap, get a good pit stop, because when the pit stops come around, and especially if we have green flag pit stops, you do not want to be sandwiched between two front runners, or worse, somebody that's going to be running towards the back, and every time you're about to exit, they're entering, and you could potentially have a wreck. Now, this year so far, 12 drivers have won a NASCAR Cup Series race, but only 11 are in the playoffs because Shane van Gisbergen, who won last weekend, not eligible, has not attempted to start every race. So that means the playoff field is still the same with just 11 of the spots claimed. The big thing you're looking at, though, the battle for 16th place. Ty Gibbs just got in with a great performance at Chicago. He is trying to hold on, just 6 points ahead of Dan Suarez, who won last year at Sonoma. That got him in. Michael McDowell, he knows how to get in with a win. This is a track where it's similar to Daytona where he got his first win. I think he's really going to be hungry for a win. And AJ Allmendinger, a lot of people anticipate he was going to be a contender for a win. He was my pick winner for last race weekend at Chicago. Does not having that great of a season, but he's still only 24 points away. You remember, there's up to 60 points available when you count the stage points and the finishing position points each and every week. And Alex Bowman, after a rough Chicago, 28 points back. So which drivers do I feel are in the must-win situation? Well, right now, I would say none of those drivers I mentioned. I am thinking more about Eric Jones, Austin Dillon. They are not nowhere near. They're getting closer to being in that must-win situation in the NASCAR Cup Series because without a win, I just don't see them pointing their way in unless we see a driver have some really big bad luck and they could continue to get forward. A couple comments in the channel before we get to the Supercar Series. Ben saying, never choose Ferrari for pick a winner. It rarely works out. And then also, thanks, good show. Thank you so much. Be sure to subscribe so that way we could keep talking more about each and all the racing series throughout the 2023 calendar year. One of those series, the Repco Supercar Series. This year, I think a lot of people are following it even more after Shane van Gisbergen's big win last race weekend. This weekend, though, hasn't exactly been his greatest weekend so far. The first race of the Townsville 500 saw Shane van Gisbergen nearly go into the wall in lap one, fell all the way back to 13th place. He still recovered for a fourth place finish overall, but it was William Brown taking the win. The big thing we saw too, Brodie Kostecki, the points leader, lost second gear before the halfway point of the race, so he started falling back. Big opportunity for Will Brown to take the win, and right now, Will Brown leads the points series. This has been a very surprising effort for him. Brodie Kostecki, the two teammates, are really bringing the fight to Triple H Racing. Brock Feeney also getting that podium finish today. Any one of the top four drivers in the points could leave this next race weekend with the points lead. It's 150 points for the win, but last place awards 30 points. So right now, Chas Mostert, he could definitely close the gap, but he cannot be in position to take the points lead at the Townsville 500. He's going to have to wait till the next race weekend to do that. But overall, a very exciting race weekend for the Supercar Series. And the Supercar Series, of course, we're going to be following them tomorrow. Grid Life wrap-up will be following the conclusion of the F1 race. And after F1, We're going to have, of course, NASCAR Cup Series. That'll be on the grid encore, and then IMSA on grid tonight. Very exciting race weekend. And one of the big things, of course, race weekend, I'm going to bring back Esha because it's time for pick a winner. And we'll start with Formula One. Esha, Joshua went with Max Verstappen. Right now, of course, you're going to be brand new. So your first pick, if you get it right, bonus points. For Formula One, who do you think is going to win the British Grand Prix?
I'd love to go with Lando Norris or Charles Leclerc because a part of me thinks that they have what it takes to, win tomorrow, especially with the performances we've seen last race and in qualifying so far. But I also do want to get my first points. So I think I'm going to go with Max Verstappen.
Max Verstappen, I think I have to go the same way as well, too. I'm in the top 10. I want to stay in there. As much as I love to go with Lando, the big surprise, because I think, as Ben has mentioned on the commercial and wrap up, nobody has done the perfect season. Max hasn't done it. Red Bull so far have been perfect, but if Lando could pull it off, I think that'd be a huge upset. But I just can't see it happen. I think it's going to be Red Bull taking the win at the British Grand Prix. First British Grand Prix win for Max Verstappen. That is very interesting to think of. Now, when it comes to the NASCAR Cup Series, Atlanta Motor Speedway, I think I'm going to go with the driver that has the momentum, not counting last weekend, but has won the weekend prior. Ross Chastain, I think, is going to win this race. He's very aggressive. He knows how to win in draft pack races like he did at Talladega last year. Ross Chastain, I think, is going to carry that Trackhouse racing streak to 3 wins in a row. That'd be great for Trackhouse racing, and that could really help his championship's hope and confidence. And then the Supercar Series, after seeing this race weekend, the first race, I think I'm going to go with Will Brown to take the second race of the Townsville 500. Townsville 500, of course, it's going to be really interesting to see how Shane van Gisbergen does, but of course, we'll recap all that on the Grid wrap-up show tomorrow, and we encourage everyone to invest in the Grid Network. Call the show, Mark, Rob, and David. They invest in us each and every month, help us get to the track, help us pay the bills. You want to do a one-time contribution to any one of the Grid Network team members, you set them out, buy me a coffee. You see a couple of our fine folks have done multiple cups of coffee. We greatly appreciate it. And of course, on social media, gridranking.com. There you'll get all the latest articles. We post opportunities on LinkedIn. So be sure, if you're looking into motorsports journalism, getting into the wonderful world of motorsports, check out our LinkedIn page, and on Twitter, and now as well, Threads, Grid Ranking. There you get the update Grid Ranking and Grid Endurance Performance Index each and every week. And of course, you're watching us on YouTube, hit the bell icon. That way you don't miss any of our programs once you subscribe, because we're on the air each and every weekend right here on YouTube. For Joshua Birch, as well as Esha Azeem, I'm Joe Samuego. Thank you for watching today's program. We'll see you next time, and enjoy the races. Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos, including Life on the Grid, where we interview folks from the motorsports industry. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.